Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all of you to this morning, to this beautiful morning on Patriots Point. It's now 9:32 on Friday, November 19th, 2020, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. There are several members joining by phone. I identify them. That was Pat Waters. Is Pat on? Okay, well, he'll have to call back in. And then Zeb Williams. Is Zeb on?
He hasn't identified yet.
Okay. Members of the board, are there any suggestions, additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda?
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
Second.
The motion passes and the agenda is approved. Let's now hear from our executive director report. Larry, please.
Mr. Chairman, if we go, I think we skip back, if we go back to item B. Sorry, I think there's a
Approval of the
Did I
minutes.
miss something?
Minutes.
Yep. Approval
The
of
minutes, excuse me.
Mhm.
The next item is are there any suggestions, additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? And then we go right into the minutes.
Move to accept the minutes as presented.
I'd like a clarification on the minutes. There were votes. Oh, this is Pat. Hello? Can you get in? You're on the phone with Zeb right now? Okay.
I mean, I'm not on the cell phone. I don't know how to make a three-way call on the cell phone. I got my cell phone and you're on the speakerphone on a landline. You want to just do it that way?
Well, yeah, I guess we could.
However, it's best for you, Pat. And Zeb is there.
That's here.
They're trying to deal with it.
Yeah, they're trying to
And we're
get-
trying to hook you up, gentlemen.
Okay. So get off of.
Are they calling your landline or your cell phone?
It's a call-in number.
They call him.
Oh,
He has
okay.
to call
All
him.
right, you better get busy.
Who?
You call me back if it doesn't work.
Oh, okay. We'll try the the group thing again.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. Okay. Are you gonna do it? Where'd you go?
Does he know he's on speaker?
I
Well,
can
minor
hear you,
thing.
but, and I've got this thing waiting for Cole Touch to turn it on, but that hasn't happened either. Patriots Point Development Authority Board meeting.
Does he have the access?
You should just dial that number on there and enter that
You want
access.
to tell him, Robert?
Hey, we're good.
I just heard you.
Okay.
So let's have the minutes.
We have you.
Hey, this is Ben.
So let's the minutes show that Pat Waters and Zeb are on the phone. Or call in, please.
The point of order, I was
The point of order that
to question on the minutes. So we had 3 people in the room last time. 3 members, and one wasn't here, and 3 on the phone, if I'm not mistaken. And then, in order to vote, of course, that's not doable by way of our bylaws. But there was something that was said about because of the COVID, the minutes could be, the bylaw, that requirement could be suspended.
Correct.
But it's not in the, that statement's not in the minutes.
Oh, it
We'll
definitely
adjust
should be.
those to reflect due to this state of emergency and COVID pandemic. The votes were there was 3 remote and 3 taken. We can add that in the minutes.
Actually, what y'all did was y'all
had a vote to waive that requirement for that meeting. And the reason was for the code, was because of the COVID.
Waive the bylaws.
So
Waive the requirement.
that's
that
in the
people-
minutes.
That
So-
that an amendment be,
Well, it needs to be in minutes.
We need to
Already.
make sure it's in the minutes,
Yeah.
please.
Good catch. That's one. Yesterday you agreed with me on.
Starting all over.
It's not over yet. The motion,
We'll do.
if I understand, then the
So-
motion passes, the minutes are approved as presented to the
With the
board
revision.
with the provision.
With revision will be made, yes.
Let's now hear from our executive director's report.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we go back to, I'll be following the committee reports based on item C, based on the agenda that's present.
So, I'll do the, museum.
Museum services.
Mhm.
Susan, please.
So we met yesterday, Museum and Education, and of course we heard a lot of unanswerable questions, and tried to talk about how we not only try to salvage and rebuild our visitorship, and I'm gonna go back into that in a minute, but the tours that they have completed and worked on are gonna reopen June the 15th, so that'll be something to put out there. But I have the fifth 05 level is shut down, but will open July 24th.
Mike will talk about that.
Okay. They're still continuing to work on the aircraft as always. Glass is being installed on the F9 Cougar, and thank you, Allison. The Yorktown Foundation has a anonymous donor that has put in $65,000 for the tires and to install and backfill for the B-25. And another thing that's been going on is there's a work party in the Vietnam base. They are the Low Country Leathernecks have been volunteering in there and doing a lot of deferred maintenance kind of things and all too. So I hope we can do something for them, or help do that. The schools, the education program, the funding. Keith is in touch with Molly Spearman, and he has got the draft on the information to restart the schools. The short answer is it depends on the contamination rate. And of course, no camping, same thing. Everything depends on, this. But Rob and I had spoken a while back, and because Rob's, marketing and all that, and we were trying to think of something that could keep kids coming on the ship. And in Rob's report yesterday, he had a figure from Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and Somerville of these high-income people that are the demographic for visiting.
It's about 25% are in the $75,000 to $100,000 household income range. That was from a survey in 2018.
So, since the education department does thousands of school kids a year, taking them through the ship, we started talking about trying to create something new, like a day camp. Maybe, and this is just a skeleton idea, and it's just a skeleton idea, that's all it is. But for example, let's say 20 kids paid their money, all got the same color t-shirt that said Patriots going on it. 20 kids came, and they're here for 5 days. And the first day, and this ties to the kindergarten through 3rd grade curriculum. There's always in the social studies about communities, and schools are about communities and community helpers. So day one could be they just go all over the Yorktown, probably with volunteers, with veterans, with Sarah, who works with the campers anyway, the whole ship, and they see how this was a city. Okay. Day 2, they could spend on the aircraft. They could go outside and see the seagulls. They could relate. That is another standard that's in the Connect flight. Day 3, maybe they could go out and do some kind of science. They have science lessons that we can do outside. We don't have to go down in the lab. Day 4, the Laffy, the submarine are there, all kinds of potential. And then day 5, so the day stops at like 12 o'clock.
It
And
starts
they eat
at
lunch 9 to 12. They eat lunch under the tree. They talk about that, and maybe the parents pick them up at 1 or so. So, but day 5 would be, they could choose what they wanted to go back and see again. And then Rob had a lot of ideas about promotional materials and coupons and partnerships and just things like that they could take home. We could put in there some kind of mechanism for the parents to become involved in our foundation. They could certainly love it. It would be priced well, and they could come back again and bring friends. You know, I mean, Rob just went crazy on all the stuff that could be
What do
done
you
with
Talk
this.
briefly about kind of the idea, and I will defer on the day camp side of it to Keith in education, because typically that would fall there. We have been developing some tours that would be actually sold to the public. One of the things we're trying to do over the team is come up with ways that we can get additional revenue streams in right now. One, I'll go ahead and share one quick one I share with the development committee meeting. We have a drive-in movie theater that will be coming in the next couple weeks. We've partnered with Robert Patterson. They will rent our parking spaces at 8:30 for $500 a night. We'll get 20% of food revenue, and we think it's a great opportunity to keep Patriots Point in the spotlight, have folks come over. They'll be able to order food. There will also be an aspect where $1 of every ticket purchased will go to the foundation. So it's another great tie into the foundation. The public tour side we're developing with the volunteers as a part of that. There will be 2. Keith and his education team will maintain the group tours for folks that come with overnight camping when it's back and tour operating group. We will be focused more on a public tour that will be sold to walk-ups. Obviously, we are keeping in mind social distancing aspects of that. So our initial tours were going to be kind of the hangar bay and the flight deck where people could space. It's not crowded. We're not on tight tour routes. The second would be one in the Vietnam support base. So I'm working with Tom Ford, the team is, in developing those out, seeing what they look like, because we think there's a demand for that. I will tell you the simulator reopened under some strict cleanliness guidelines. When a group walks up, if it's a family of 4, they are the only group that gets on it. It's clean after they're on. If a couple walks up, they're the only ones that ride. It's worked well. The first weekend we were here, we had 407 people go through it.
Wow.
Friday, Saturday.
That's
So
great.
we'll get more data this weekend. It seems that people are willing to spend that extra money.
What do you charge for that, Rob?
I think that's a $7. $7.
It's a cost share.
Yeah, it's a cost share. Yeah, we get a percentage. It's a 50-50 split on the back end.
That's good.
Yeah. So, we just want to get more of these revenue streams coming in.
No.
And then talking with Susan, with these tours, we thought that might be an aspect that we could utilize that on if there was a move towards day camps. Now, I know Keith has talked a little bit about day camps and some issues. I don't know if you want to touch base on the day camp.
Remember, it was a skeleton idea.
Obviously hearing this for the first time.
No, you're not.
And after yesterday's discussion, I have to caution that taking care of any group of kids over any appreciable period of time would put us at risk. It's just, I cannot guarantee if I take a temperature of a kid in the morning that he's not going to become sick later on in the afternoon. We're in closed quarters. I mean, this is why we canceled our camps with the town, for the same reason. We don't want to bring them inside the ship into the tour routes. So I think the risk kind of outweighs the advantage of 20 kids. We did the numbers, and we have to do one instructor per 6 kids. You've got to keep them 6 feet apart. I mean, all the regulations that were being required under the CDC and the state made it operating inside our educational centers almost impossible at this moment.
Well, can I say something? First thing is, I didn't outline this very well. It would be a group of whatever at 8 o'clock. 30 minutes later, maybe a second group, and they would run through. They'd only go through, I mean, I wouldn't send them on tour routes. I'd send them, we've got enough open spaces that they could, and enough things to see and enough things to do outside that, you know, if they were here from like, let's say 3 hours, 3.5 hours, they come, they do one thing a day, like see the ship or whatever. And then at 12:30 or whatever, you take them out under the trees, they bring their lunch, they
Susan, they
talk,
bring,
all that stuff.
they bring their lunch, or do we supply the lunch?
I would have them bring it because it's safer. Bring it from their own house. And then you could, I think you could get parent chaperones that would help with this. I think that if we, for all the problems that would prevent this, I think there's just a way around every one. And I just think we've kind of forced to figure out some more ways to make money. But anyway, like I said, that's only a skeleton idea.
Fellow board members and Larry and staff, I'm very much for this, and I think I would like you all to look at it and develop it. It's needed. I hear it every day in my business. What am I going to do with the kids this summer? We get it. We must get 150 ask, where do we have summer camps in town that can do it with the right size, and we're not afraid to pay. So I think Larry and staff, I agree. I think I support Susan on this. I think we should look into it. I think it's something that this community needs, and I think with all the work that has been done on this ship in the last 3 months, parents haven't been on board. I mean, I think we have something to show off, and I want to thank again all the staff who have worked so hard on maintaining the ship and bringing it back. It really looks great. But I think this summer day camp idea, we could run it in the morning. Now, also listen to me. We could do it because in the resort business I was in for many years, we did an afternoon session. So you can do 2. And I agree with Susan, they bring their own lunch. Of course, you're going to run into problems because there's some mothers that don't make the lunch. So we'll have to have a couple bags.
Peanut butter
And jelly. But I think we should look into this for a revenue stream, and I don't think we should give it shouldn't be cheap. Mothers and fathers right now are looking for something, and I think we can fill that gap. Following the rules that we have to follow with the state, I agree, and I think, Larry, what I'm saying, I know we have all the rules that in my business I have to live with every day, and I know Susan knows that we have those. So I think it's something, and I would like to ask fellow board members for their opinions. I just think it's something that we should look into.
Will do, Mr. Chairman.
Wayne?
I'll comment. We just had to close down our basketball camps for the summer, and one reason was the Referees Association refused to participate because of the risk of being involved with exposing kids. Now it's a very different thing. That's sports. You're sweating, you're breathing. You've got the aerosol droplets, which we know are key to the spread of this. So it can be looked at, and I agree it ought to be looked at, but I take staff's cautions very seriously because we do that every day.
I think we all do. Susan
Let's
does.
make sure it's
We all on the board think
right.
We have to look at
Right.
our rules, regulations, our staff, their health, as well as
Right.
the young men and women that would come.
Right. And
Wayne, I agree with you completely.
And my wife's a school teacher, and so they're looking at how to conduct the school year. And I was on a conference call last week with Dr. Postlethwaite, and they're not sure exactly what they're going to do, but school district may be a good place to get some information. I'll be happy to be, you probably don't need it, but I'll be happy to be liaison, because there's got to be a way to do school, and if they do it, they're talking about the same precautions that we're talking about here. So cautiously proceed is what I would say.
And I can pull some stuff on, that I've already looked at on day camps, just in general.
We'll be on this first thing next week and quickly, we can do to turn
Right.
this around.
Money.
That's great, Larry.
What
Thank you.
age group kids are we talking about again?
You'd have to figure all that out. But I know the ones with the
older the
little
better.
kids. You know, man, the
The older the
kindergartenish
better.
ones.
The older ones will help us move the rock pile.
Well, I can tell you though, having the surf camp at Folly Beach in front of my home, they are full every week. Now there's no 6 feet distancing there, but they also have a lot of classes on the beach for safety,
Right.
and it's full,
And they're outdoors.
and they're outdoors. So I think, Larry, what I'm saying is we can work this with flight deck and a lot of outdoor things, the Vietnam experience, which many young men and women today don't understand about that whole word, Vietnam.
Exactly. And to me, and also just in the environment of, we know that there are these voids in people, probably parents too, understanding of history. And this might be something that, to me, this would be something that the EIA might like to hear about, because this is a huge innovation. And it may be helpful that we stepped up and helped try to do our part in line item or appropriations or something. I mean, it's just a lot of good things could come from at least trying to do it, or do it. I think it could be done. It just has to be
It's got to be coordinated
real.
well. Yes.
And I'm almost through.
That's right, Susan.
In education. So again, we don't know anything. We don't know, but Keith is busy working on some a global citizenship program and some virtual outreach kind of thing. And there will be no overnight camping. I think that's it. The VR we have in a smaller room. That's going to be delayed. But another thing about the camping that's a nice PR thing is this is the 40th year that there have been campers on this ship. So sure would be nice to say we still have some. Technically. So I think that's it.
Is there any way, Larry and the staff, that you've looked at some sort of camping? I know Wayne and I have talked about it, and I think we both agree it's a powder keg. But maybe you have looked at something.
Mr. Chairman,
Small groups of 6.
at this time, for the foreseeable future, when it's right, we'll come back to the board and recommend when we should reopen for camping. But right now, we could not. We've done a lot to make precautions, but we're not ready to begin overnight camping.
No, I agree. Thank you.
Oh, and one more thing. Is Brandon here? So Brandon, would you be able to kind of connect this into whoever needs to connect the camping idea in the State House, or what we recommend, how that should work?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice for next week to wait to see how the liability legislation
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out for COVID.
Yeah.
And then that'll tell us a lot what
Okay.
our protections are going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
Is that coming out next week?
Should be.
Yeah, that's what they
Unless
say in the
it gets
paper.
held up
right?
in the Senate, which could.
When would it get acted on? Not till they come back in the fall?
No, this will be active immediately.
Okay.
And the budget issues will be taken up
Budget
in
in
September.
Okay.
And the last thing is, I think, is we have the foundation has funded an architect, and I don't know if everyone has this.
Yeah.
This is a conceptual markup of the dog tag exhibit, which has been one of the most popular things going in to Vietnam, and it's just been so appreciated by those veterans and by people to look for somebody's name that they knew or know or see how many South Carolinas. It's a real powerful visual. And so the donors, Allison can tell you more about the fundraising part, but the donors have got it funded, I think. And now there are two possible sites, which would be back at Vietnam, which will move someday, or over by the Gold Star on the waterfront. That's very close. And what was the total on this, Allison?
We have just under $48,000 from Charleston County A-tax funding. We estimate the entire project budget to be around $60,000, and the foundation is prepared to raise that balance.
Very nice, thank you.
So,
we talked about a couple locations. Is there anything?
You gotta get with Bennett.
Yeah.
To see.
so the item is looking for a motion from the board to move forward with the dog tag exhibit, and wherever.
Well, the motion's being put forth by the museum committee, right?
So it doesn't require a second because it came through committee.
So
So
it would be
straight-
board's approval, and it would be, the only
Yeah.
dependent would be the location, and then as long as the executive director, in accordance with Bennett's agreement on what location it would be, will proceed with the dog tag exhibit project, is what I'm looking from the board this morning.
I recommend it and ask the support of the board. Other board members, please.
Quick question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, right, from the committee?
Yes, sir.
Would this fall under the Monuments Act for the state, the Heritage Act?
No, because this is an exhibit. It's
An
not a
exhibit,
proposal.
okay.
That's smart. Okay, so
I think it's called an exhibit.
it's dog tags. We'd like to have a motion for us to accept this proposal to complete this exhibit.
Don't need a motion. Just vote.
Don't need a second.
Just do
Just a vote.
But no, doesn't need a second because it came out of committee.
Right.
We need a vote.
Just
Right.
a note.
Just a
Yeah,
vote.
Just need a vote.
So all in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Thank you, God.
Any nays?
Pat, scroll back.
Unanimous.
And that completes my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan, very much. And I guess we go to you, Wayne.
Couple of quick things. One, we had a real insightful report from marketing yesterday. Had some research and some things that sort of a recap of what they've done cutting back during COVID, and then now what we're doing to try to move forward. And I wish I'd have thought about it, Rod. Could you email that to everybody who wasn't in the meeting yesterday?
Absolutely, be glad to do it.
Or could include us too. Electronic file probably be good. There's some good things in there, some research data and other stuff about what's going on around. And I just wish I'd have thought to have a handout here of it, if you could do that.
I'll absolutely get it done.
The other thing is that the development committee moves to, let me back up. We approved $25,000  2 or 3 months ago, 4 months ago, for 6 months ago, a while ago, approved $25,000 to engage an architect to look at a temporary building. We know that with as Bennett moves forward, we are going to have to replace the gift shop on a temporary basis. We don't know what defines temporary there. We're thinking years, so we need something fairly substantial to get us through that. And now it looks like from recent discussions that Bennett is going to stay on schedule.
Wow.
That's what it looks like now.
I was at a dinner party last night and sat next to him, members of the board, and he said he is staying on schedule.
Wow.
I mean,
And
so
Congratulations.
that's what he wanted me to pass on to the board this morning. And I think we can get him to build that building.
I don't think we can with the state. But
Bill, you're shaking.
no,
No?
I don't think we can. The state procurement laws would forbid it.
We explored.
We
all
explored
of
that for
stuff
him to
in-
build
in-
the office
in detail.
building, and we couldn't do
I
it without going
understand.
through state procurement. So anyway, with that case, as you recall, in the lease, once he tells us that he needs that land where the gift shop is, we've got 17 months to get out. And obviously that means we've got to get into something else. So we think we need to get on with planning. Staff asked yesterday for an additional $2,500 toward the architect. And so the committee moves to provide an additional $2,500 to complete that project and get on it immediately.
So it's really 27.5.
Correct. So the total expenditure is 27.5.
You need a motion on that?
Well, that was the motion, so you just need to call for a vote.
I'd like to call for a vote of the board.
Just quick, who's the architect?
Out of Columbia, Lewis Architect.
What's that?
Lewis Architect did the initial design, initial consultation with us and meeting with the Bennett. I just asked the committee to go back to the original $25,000. We paid him $2,500 just some consulting right now, talking about, they did the RFP for DOT and the welcome centers is why we used him. So he's familiar with state procurement and writing the RFPs, because we will have to go through design build plan to move forward and get this through Columbia, and he's familiar with that process working with DOT.
Any other questions from board? If I don't hear any, let's have a vote, please. Aye.
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 Good. Any nays?
That was unanimous.
It's unanimous.
We must be on a 5-second delay in case somebody says a bad word.
I have to say something to the board and to staff. As the new chairman, I can't thank Wayne enough for the hours he's put in tutoring me on Patriots Point. He's even said to me a couple times, now Susan voted against this, but we saw eye to eye and we're moving forward. I just want to thank you very much, Wayne. And I want everybody to know that this man has spent hours briefing me, helping me with Bill to get caught up. And without a man of this sorts that knows the history here with Bill, it's an impossible job. With Larry as new, I think we've all come together and it's helped us greatly. And I'd just like to thank both Wayne and Bill very much for their hours of briefings and helping both here in Charleston and in Columbia. And I thank you very much, Wayne.
Thank you.
And staff with it. It's just great. Let's move on to Director of Operations. Or am I keeping in order correctly?
Yes, sir.
Mike Hastings, please.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you, sir.
For the sake of brevity, I've provided a handout for you for our most recent projects, and I could speak extensively about each, but I will just at the way tops. 3 of the 4 projects that are listed there are carryovers, from the COVID-19 shutdown. All of them have a few things in common. All of them had extensive asbestos remediation done, asbestos tile removed from the decking, which is something that we can't do. Extensive cleaning, perhaps steel refurbishment, then a prepping of those areas, painting, and then edge work done. So this is just a little bit of an overview of each of those tour routes 1, 3, and 4. Tour route 1 is now finally completely open for business, the normal route, so you don't have to reroute through anywhere. And that was probably our most extensive asbestos remediation work done in that area. So it looks great. The custodians kind of touched it off last week. with a final coat of wax all the way down to the mess decks, through the mess deck area. It looks really good, and into the merchant marine room. So if you take the elevator out, if you just look over to your left to the merchant marine room, we've cleaned in there as well. So it looks really good. Tour Route 3, Susan, to your question. So that's the island. And I think it was briefly mentioned yesterday, or maybe it wasn't perfectly clear. So the 07 and 0, and I have some photographs actually floating around. You can see the work that's being done in there. So the island remediation of the asbestos tiling on those two decks is extensive. Those decks had a double layer of asbestos tile, which requires a 4-day monitoring period, which means no one can go in there. Once that's complete, and of course weather dependent, and then working around weekends, that company goes in there and removes that asbestos tile. That took a little bit longer than anticipated. Once that's out, then you have to work on the steel decking. And again, those photographs that I believe the chairman might have, you can see a photo of the steel decking that actually has a hole penetration in it.
Yeah.
But you can't just paint over that and call it good. If you stood on that deck, the 08 level, the quartermaster's deck, it would bob up and down because it's so thin. Well, that has to be completely remediated. Excuse me, not remediated. That has to be removed and reinforced. That's not an easy job. So cut out, reinforced with steel plating, and then treated, painted, and top coated. We estimated July 24th, which is of course about a month from now. Well, why so long? Or why can't we let folks come up to the 04, 05 levels? Because of every single day our guys are moving up and down those ladders. There's power cords, there's stuff being removed. It would be somewhat of a danger and intrusive to the public to try and bring folks up into the island. And I hope that somewhat makes sense. It's dirty work, and it's tough. It's tough go. It's tough sledding. But you'll notice that photograph that was taken today on the top right there. That's at least the 07 level. It looks really good. That's just a top coat, so it looks pretty sharp.
Nice. Very nice fight.
Hard work.
Tour Route 4, that'll be completed by Tuesday. That's a team of 3 folks led by Brian Parsons from Museum Services. So again, they continue over the Tiger team from the shutdown. Those guys are carrying that ball across the finish line into the battleship room. If you can picture in your mind's eye the big, large Yamato battleship model, and then it goes into the back area of the U.S. battleship. So that's all being completely painted out. And then the trim work will happen on Monday, and that'll be open for business on Tuesday. And lastly, I mentioned just briefly is Yorktown hull repairs. So we do an annual inspection with divers on the Laffey hull and the Yorktown hull. And this team from HydroCorp, they just borrow our barges and our John boat, and they get after a few holes, penetrations in the Yorktown hull, about the forward 15 frames. They're just, some of them are up to almost fist size to smaller holes that we just don't have the ability to do that. So divers get in the water and they repair those sections for us, because our plan is obviously later this summer into the fall is to put our own cofferdam in there and start repairing as we go to test fire that system we created last year. So that's the long and short of it.
Mike, moving forward, party, what you're moving on is a couple questions been asked about the painting of the side of the ship and rust. If you could just tell them, hey, this is why you're seeing rust on that side.
Yep.
And what are you doing on the flight deck for priorities?
That's what I wanted to thank you.
Okay.
Flight deck.
So flight deck steel, there's the flight deck is roughly 90,000 square feet, the entire flight deck. The steel portion is about 42,000 square feet. And of course, if you look at it, you can just look around. Of course, if you go up on the island and look down, it looks terrible. We know it. There's several areas of just completely corroded and rust, brown stains, and that's our #1 project for this next fiscal year. We leaned forward and we purchased all the supplies and painting products that we need, which was about $34,000 worth of paint systems, and that will be done in kind of a patch quilt work fashion. You can't just shut down, obviously, the entire flight deck because guests can't observe. So you'll do section by section. Of course, it's weather dependent. Unfortunately, if you can imagine this, that in the morning time when our guys can work before the guests are here, in the summer, that flight deck has a fine layer of dew over it. You can't paint in that environment, unfortunately. And a lot of that steel has to be just gouged out, that rusted steel, and then treated with certain paint systems before it's finally painted. Best time to paint is fall and spring. If I could leave you with that, the best time to paint here is fall and spring, just because of the weather environment and the temperatures and all that good stuff. So That will take every bit of a year to paint that 42,000 square feet. We have, of course, with the reorganization, we're going to have a good 5 or 6 painters, but of course they have to paint other areas of the ship as well. Right now I've got 1 painter on deck. I have 1 painter assigned until the reorganization comes through, so that'll be a good thing.
You have 1 painter today working on the
I have
flight
1
deck?
painter in the operations department, sir. The other painter that I have assigned is unfortunately on FMLA.
I understand.
So with reorganization, that'll boost it up to 6 fellows, so that'll be a great thing. Regarding the question on the hull, and when we see it, absolutely, you come aboard, especially the forward brow, you look to your right, you can see how it's bubbling and painting, or the paint's curling up and kind of almost chipping off. Everything to do with painting, especially on steel, is prep work. If it's not prepped correctly, it'll look good for a few months, maybe even a year, and then it starts to quickly raise up and fall apart. It's obvious that it wasn't prepped correctly. We have a crew of folks now that really understand how to prep steel before you paint it, and it's simply pressure washing it, using the right stuff to remove that milky sea salt off of it. And if that's not done, you're just painting over it. You're just creating a problem. That wasn't accomplished. What we can do, we looked at it actually yesterday. There's about a 50 by 100 foot section, 5,000 square feet. We have the ability with our own barges and with our own lifts and our own spider lift in our team that we could potentially get after it this year. But it does become a flight deck steel or hull, either or. We could do it and relatively cheaply for maybe $5,000 to $6,000, of paint. But it's kind of where do you weight your effort? You want to get after that flight deck steel refurbishment, or do you want to get after the hull? Not you per se, but it's just the proverbial, I guess. What do we prioritize?
Mike, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When you talk about the hull, are you talking about the bootstrap? Because that really needs attention.
So this, not a great photograph, because obviously I think what you're speaking to is an area that, well
where the barnacles are in the black line.
It's a black line.
That's the boot top.
Boot top, right?
We assumed you were actually speaking about the hull, the rake of the hull, where
No,
there's
I'm
some.
talking about the boot.
We will look closer at that area. I apologize. I was misunderstanding. I thought you meant more along the area. There's areas along the hull itself, just as you come aboard, that's in really poor condition.
I think this needs attention.
Picture of it.
Okay.
The boot top,
Right there.
yeah, you can see.
There you
See?
Right. There's
And maybe I
so
was incorrect.
to that. So you see barnacles along the boot top, the blackened top, and you look at the laffy, you might say, well, you don't see it over there. And I would love some backup from Bob, because I might misspeak. However, that boot top and the barnacles that are attached to the hull there, that provides protection. Somewhat of protection. You don't want to remove that. You remove that, then you expose that steel, now that white steel, to salt air every time the tide rises, and then when it's set, and then when it lowers, now it's exposed to air. So it's wet and it's dry twice a day, every 24-hour cycle. What those barnacles provide right now, the best thing we can do is protect it. You take that away, that's not so good. I know it looks rather unsightly, but it's not a bad thing actually for us.
Can you spray paint them?
Mike, I just think you need to look at it because it doesn't look appealing to the ship.
Mike, when we put the cofferdam in there and start removing those portions of steel,
Yes.
that is when those
Absolutely.
sections will come by. So it's going to take how many years to get around, just to work?
The intent with our cofferdam, with our mobile cofferdam, is not to do the entire ship. It's just too small. It's 8 foot wide. So what we're getting at, the intent with our mobile cofferdam, were just the most damaged areas on the on the bow of the ship. That first 22 frames. Eventually, it's going to require a cofferdam of much more considerable size to do that to the entire ship. It would take forever. For instance, it took the, I want to say North Carolina, not North Carolina, I'm lying to you, up in Philadelphia, I don't know the name of the ship, escapes me. They did 37 feet in 1 year.
Wow.
On both sides?
No.
Just around the front with their mobile cofferdam. 37 feet of repair in one year, and that was putting 2 people in there. That's not a lot, obviously. So to remove those barnacles and then paint over it, I would be able to do a few feet at a time with what we currently have. Very minimal ability to do that.
But right now, it's preserving the ship. It's helping the ship. Even though it doesn't look good, it's saving the steel from being exposed and causing a bigger expense down the line.
So I think Mike asked the question, though maybe I misunderstood. Flight deck, there was something else.
You're talking about the rust on the side of the ship as you come down the pier. If you can see those two rust lines running down, that's what he was talking about.
And that does need to be, deserves some attention, because you can't miss it walking down the pier.
Okay. So that's what
I was looking
thought
at it yesterday.
That's what I shared with Mike, was the two rust spots that were painted previously. They just painted over it, and so that's where he has to do the balance of, do we put everybody on the ladders and go after that in the splitters? So, but again, that's where the customers see first, and they won't see the flight deck. So we can adjust.
How long, Mike, do you think that would take, what Wayne just talked about in maintenance?
3 months.
Ooh.
That's 5,000 square feet, that area that Wayne is referencing.
Right.
That's what I was understanding. That's a 50 by 100 foot section. 50 gallons of primer, 50 gallons of top coat. It's 100 gallons total. And about 3 months to put guys on our barges and using our lifts. It's one person at a time. One man at a time.
But then you could leave the other 5 men when you get the staffing correct, organizational wise. You could put them on the flight deck?
But yes, you could. If we had the full 6-man paint shop, yes. I would like to mention this, and it's just, it may seem as though, well, boom, today you're a painter.
Right.
Super capable guys. And I'm not going to name names, but those folks have never worked on the steel hull before. And now, well, today I'm a painter. I've got one person who knows how to treat that steel, who knows how to work on the hull, or knows how to work on the flight deck. One guy. The folks that are coming from museum services, great Americans, but they're used to painting aircraft and working on doing aircraft maintenance. Steep learning curve. Steep learning curve. So, but that's okay. We Tiger Team, we jump on things and we train folks to get up to speed. But it's it is somewhat of a balancing act. It is somewhat of a balancing
Well, I agree with Wayne, just to let you know. I think the side of the ship is very important that we get that addressed. But I also would with you on the tour, and that flight deck needs attention badly. So I don't know how you can.
I think that it will extend the project again because it's weather. It's all weather dependent. Not all. It is very largely weather dependent. You can't paint in the rain. You can't paint when it's wet. If the steel becomes too hot, and I know that sounds odd.
No.
But if that steel, because when the sun rises and it hits that, not only the flight deck but the hull of the ship, you can't paint. If it gets below a certain temperature, you can't paint. It's a heck of a thing. It's just a heck of a thing. So I've had to contend with, and you're wringing your hands, Mike. It can be done. It's just you've got to be flexible. But then when you put your barges in the water and you put your crews out there.
Well, let's take the side of the ship as a priority.
Okay.
I think that, am I speaking correctly, Wayne? I think you and I have looked at it, and other members of the board. And then I think we really need to get on the flight deck when we can.
Okay, we'll do.
I really think that is what people really look at, and if we ever get back in the social business,
First impressions.
Yeah, we'll do very much. I hope the board would agree with me and Wayne on that subject. Mike, and I can't thank you enough. The ship looks great.
Thank you.
I mean, I really would like to thank you and your crew and all of the members in this room of all the hard work you guys put in while we were shut down. It's terrific.
I'll pass that along.
I know it was a long-winded. We didn't mean to go long, but it was important to get that out.
No, I think it's important for us.
Still, I want to say too, I was coming back from out of town the other day, and when you come in I-26 and you've been out of town and you make that big curve in the city of Yorktown, remembering what it looked like when it looked like a pair of faded jeans. It looks so good now.
Yeah.
And it gets me every time still, so that's good.
I agree with you totally. Thank you. Mike, thank you again.
No problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Larry?
Mr. Chairman, next item up is finance. Pat Waters, you okay with Roy's briefing numbers?
Yes, sir, I absolutely.
I handed these out prior to the meeting, so everybody should have a hard copy of this. So I'll just run down this because this is the highlights of the financial statements. And as you can see, at May 31st, we had a little over $3.4 million cash on hand. Cash from operations decreased by $1,100,000. Last year we had that. We ended the year with like $4.5 million in the reserve account, and we burned through a little over $1 million in the last couple of months because of closures and things. So that, you know, the cash in the reserve account right now is at $3,400,000. The operating revenues for July through May were a little over $8 million. The total expenditures were $9,362,000, which results in a loss for the period before depreciation of $1,315,000. On the bottom portion of the that cover sheet, you'll see where, going back to the closure in mid-March, where paid attendance is now 76,500 people. The camping program, since it's been closed, we're 6,400 people behind last year at the same time. And again, if you look at the next four categories that are our single largest revenue producers, and we're down $2.3 million in those four. I was telling Mr. Hall earlier before the meeting that if you look and see where we are right now, I looked this morning, and this is through Wednesday. We're starting to track around 44% ticket booth wide ticket numbers of where we were last year. The gift shop is close to 70% of what it was doing last year for the month of June. Those first couple of days and those last couple of days in May. And parking, it seems to be way down for some reason this year. It's not tracking at that 30-some or 40% that we're hoping for. And then again, right now with the camping program, there's going to be zero revenue there.
What are you looking at? You gave me a number.
Oh, what we were talking about earlier today, I mentioned it briefly yesterday in Susan's committee. If you look at next year, what I've done, talking to Larry and all, I've done a couple of different scenarios. And if we take 50% of our paid attendance from prior year for the period July through December, and then 80% from January through June. If you look at those revenue numbers and compare it to the approved budget this year, it's going to be down about $4.2 million. But that included some, it depends on overnight camping revenue. And, I know we're not going to be getting back into that anytime soon until it gets safe. So that included like $750,000 for camping in next year. And hopefully on the low side, though, I've only projected like where the lease revenue is going to be 60%. But I'm hoping, Darwin was telling me this morning, that hotel, everything over there looked like it was completely full from what he was saying. So I'm hoping that those revenues are going to get back to normal compared to what we're getting.
In my business, we're 80% back right now. Just
overall?
Overall, yes.
Right.
Now, we still have the restriction of seating at 50%.
That's what I was thinking.
And then with the governor's discussion this morning, we had 1,000 cases of new yesterday.
Yeah.
So he's still not going to he's going to still have the restriction on seating for
Everybody's
a while.
buying more alcohol.
And I
They're all
mean-
drinking.
No,
There is a positive thing.
No, can I tell you something? They're drinking more alcohol and less beer.
We can have stronger stuff.
Yeah.
Beer is 30% off.
Wow.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But, you know, one of the other things that's starting to help us
I'm
now
doing my
too
share.
is for some of the tours to open back up.
Right.
So we're starting to feed off a little bit of their business. And, you know, they have restrictions on them. I mean, I was talking to one of the owners, and they can only put 100, the max they can put on a boat, I think, is 140 people instead of the 300 and something. And they had to cut out a tour, I think, from each place, because they have these strict guidelines that once they come back in, it used to be like a 30-minute turnover, get people off, get people back on. Now it's a little over an hour because they've got to go through and disinfect everything on the ship.
Yeah.
So yes, instead of running 3 tours out here today, they're doing 2. And the very first week, and they're the #1 tourist attraction in the Tri-County area. And you know they didn't know what to expect, particularly with limited number of people. But just that first couple of days they were open. I haven't talked to Rick this week, but they were still doing, I think, mid-30s or something like that when they first opened up. And hopefully that number's ticked up like ours.
If I may, one of the things I've been busy with, we've all been busy the last 3 months, is I'm on the task force, the One Region task force, to get businesses by sector to open safely, and we have the medical university guidelines and all that stuff. So we have a Zoom meeting every week, and I'm putting this in the context of especially our gate sales and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We get 4 economic indicators every week, and 2 of the really telling ones this week were, one is that the mobility, and they use that service, I forget the name of it, you know, it tracks cell phones and movement, that mobility is back to about 99% of what it was pre-COVID. So people are out and about, they're doing business. But on the other hand, only 60% of small business, and they define small business in this survey in South Carolina as 500 or fewer employees, feel like things will be back to pre-COVID numbers in 6 to 9 months. So I was just sitting here thinking about this. I don't know if our numbers stay low just on the gates. I know camp is closed and all that. It might have more to do with people's feeling about the economy than anything we're doing or not doing here. Because that confidence level, and this is one of the things that One Region is doing, is we're trying to get that confidence level up, that, like you said, Bill, you know, you can be at 80% now and see it, you can see 100% from there, hopefully. So I think as that optimism rises, maybe we'll see more people spending discretionary dollars and coming here.
And what you're saying, maybe, and I say this to you, Larry, and staff, maybe we should look at pricing, Wayne? Lowering prices in some areas in the summertime to get more families on. I just opening my mouth.
My personal opinion
Yes,
is that we don't need to do that. That the decision making is based on other things than, I mean, just like you talking about not buying the discounted beer, they're buying the higher priced stuff. I think as we talked about this a little bit in marketing yesterday, as to, you know, the psychology of the people who are out and about and travel. And I think we need to understand, there was a survey, I can't remember the source of it yesterday, I saw some research last night that, you know, one of it's party affiliation. I think we can all guess who's traveling. So, I mean, so there's things like that are impacting things. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I have nothing to back that up other than what else throughout.
Sorry. So for a long time, and Allison can tell you more about this, you know, we kicked around the idea of utilizing our foundation for a family, whatever, and maybe a summer family You know, temporary, something coming through the foundation might work to do that.
You know, I guess I would like to see us use the discounts for almost as awards rather than incentives. I can, you know, and it was just like we do with the military, you know, with a veteran or whatever. You know, with their discounted first responders. You know, and I think probably the Father's Day promotion fits into that category, you know, to
Yes.
sort of show appreciation to people more so than try to get them to come. I mean, and maybe, I don't know, you know, maybe we need to look at that at some point. I might be wrong. That's just my thinking.
That's a big thing at World War II. I think it's every Monday they do the grocery store clerks. I mean, any kind of service, but it's a different group, a category of people who have had to work through the
That's a
whole
great idea.
time.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Say that again?
This is going to be short-lived.
Mr. Chairman, since everybody has, it's been all hands, and when I get to my report next, we'll talk about it, but the piece is, unless there's any other questions for Royce on money numbers, we've got feedback, is a lot of things that came through the ticket window is, do you offer a teacher discount? And because we've received, a lot of teachers are here, so that's stuff we can put in the development committee agenda for next month, and we'll give you some recommendations.
But I personally think, and I don't know if the other board members feel this way, but I think we should look at first responders, teachers. There's some things I think we could do price-wise, and they're coming with family that could help their pocketbook, and could also help attendance on the ship. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Teachers are the only discount we don't currently have. We have first responders, military, and
I think we should, I asked the board for their response, I think we should do a discount for teachers, personally.
Oh, like year-round.
Year-round, yes. I agree.
But I
Susan.
think what you're talking about a little bit is a special day for them, you know, for the first responders, you know, where they come in free with their family. Because on Mondays, maybe we don't do that much business. I don't know what the demographic is, or for Monday sales, but I just think that's a great outreach thing.
It would allow us to draw attention to that discount too.
Mhm.
You know, if it's once a month or first Monday of the month or whatever. Yeah.
Larry, why don't you put something together for us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to that point, that's really where we look, is on the discounts, not discounts for discount's sakes, but rather tying it to a very specific thing like Father's Day, you know, the first responders types of discounts, because they're meaningful discounts, and we're not just discounting to get people in the door when we don't know what the true demand is at that point. And we'll offer limited time, limited quantity Groupons to get people that maybe can't afford it, but we limit quantity on those. They don't run forever. They're very short-lived.
But I think, as Susan brought up, and Larry just said, I think we should look at teachers personally.
Yeah, that's easy to do. Yeah, we can implement that. We don't have.
I think
that's fine. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Do you want to wait till next month till we present the numbers to you and what the possible impacts, or is that, want me to execute now on that?
With the teachers, I think we should execute it now.
We don't need to come back and vote on
And
that.
I ask the other board members, please.
How about what to kind of make it a little less? How about the teacher is the one that's, you know, besides this VIP in it, but she could bring a child or a student along, or kid, or 2 or 3 kids, for a discounted price, you know.
So you would be wanting to
Like
offer to her
$10 or
family?
$5 or just something.
We can come up with some options.
Can I just, let us do the staff work on this and come back with a proposal for next month for the board?
Yeah, no, but Larry,
It's late in the
I
summer.
personally think, I don't know if the board, I don't think we should wait.
Yeah.
Because you're getting out of school, or I know everybody's out now, so I think you should do it the next week and email us and let us write an okay on it and send it back to you.
So if I could, we need a motion right now. We can fix a teacher one right now. I just want to look at the kids' numbers before I start figuring out what the numbers are with the kids. I could do the teachers, because that's what I don't know is, I'd like to look at, because when I worked at Ticket Window, I had 2 teachers come up and go, do you offer a teacher discount? They both were teachers and they're traveling because of the summer. So I understand if we implement now with the teacher discount. And we have the child rate, and then we also have the, what's the child, 16?
Yes.
And then the child under 5 and 0
It's free.
is free.
Right.
So that's where our price points: military, first responders, veterans 21, military and teacher will be 19, and then full price is 24.
I think I would like to ask the board support of getting a teacher's discount now. Do you need a motion on that, or do we just need to?
I probably have to recuse on that, being married to one. I mean, direct financial benefit, but yeah.
No, you
but
don't have to pay for her to come in.
Anyway, because I'm on the okay. I just want to. We don't need any controversy.
So it'd be at the 19 point. They'd be matched at the first responders. Teachers would be
Yes.
$19. So
I would recommend that, please. Now, do you need a motion or do you need a vote?
You ought to have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we.
Second.
okay.
All right.
And as a point of discussion, I mean, just do something. Maybe run it by the chairman. We can't really vote by email. That's kind of
No, I
a
understand.
thing.
That.
But if it's good with
That's
you,
what we're doing
I'm
now.
good with it.
Yeah, we just voted.
We just need a vote. No.
You could say
We haven't
unanimous
voted yet.
consent.
We just voted. I mean, we got the vote on the table to do it at 19, right?
19.
That's
That's the motion.
That's the motion. So we got some-
Can it pass by unanimous consent?
Sure. Is there any objections?
Any objections?
No. No.
Pass.
Yeah, that's consent. Well, so we will get the announcement out, and we'll do a press release, and I know some teachers will really enjoy that. So-
No, I think it'll be helpful in the community as well as the state. Thank you.
And we'll share that press release with the board as soon as we have it ready.
Thank you.
Okay. We're on item
And
D.
now we'll hear from Larry.
Yes, sir.
Executive Director's report,
Sorry.
please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your time. It's good to see everybody again since we haven't seen everybody except for Zeb. Still haven't seen you since March, but it'll be good to see everybody once we get back together. Safety continues to be our priority of our staff and guests here at Patriots Point. Mike and his team have done a magnificent job of keeping, we were doing the right things of cleanliness and keeping the ship clean before COVID. All we've done is enhanced, and we have actually followed the guidelines. You've seen my updates about the ultraviolet lights in the HVAC system. We'll continue to look for improvements and continue to follow the CDC guidelines as they change. Again, Sylvia has done a wonderful job working through the state guidelines as we have dealt with the COVID issue with one of our employees and the teams that were exposed to that employee. They are all back to work, and thank goodness none of them were hospitalized. So I appreciate your support during this pandemic. Just a reminder, we had 57 temporary employees that we laid off when this started. 5 of those have returned. The only temporary employees that are returning are those that are in the revenue generating business that we don't need help with. I can't run an employee 7 days a week as a parking attendant, so you'll see those employees have come back in the ticketing area, the gift shop, and the parking attendant. So we brought 5 of those back. We have 2 outstanding RFPs. One of those will close shortly, and then we'll probably have a discussion, an executive session about your letter, Mr. Chairman, on contractual matters, because we might need a decision on the other outstanding RFP. You've heard from the staff, and again, any other information, this is in lieu of my weekly update. You'll have this is all the data you'll have today, so I won't send an update this week, but again, I'll send the next one. And then pending any questions of the board, any more information you might need from me or staff.
Anybody on the board have any comment to Larry? I don't have any, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on item E, Mr.
E,
Chairman.
Any public comments? Since there are none, I would make a motion that we move into executive session.
Second. Mr. Chairman, for the purpose of discussing contractual, legal, and personnel matters pertaining to Patriots Point Development Authority.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Take 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman, to
Yes, sir.
prepare for
Thank you.
executive session and let folks recharge. Thank you. Hey, and send the email too, because
I told Jess I'll send it to her and send it out.
just that way they can have it electronic.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're gonna email it as well. Jess is gonna email it.
Thank you.
Susan, did you want another copy?
No, that's actually a Kramer Robinson document.
Well, he sent one page when he sent it over, didn't he?
Yeah,
No.
so this is the resolution that we had prepared for the.
I hope it's. Just hope they never.
What?
I'm gonna frame it.
We're on.
I want you to sign mine too.
We're back from, we're back in the open session.
The camera's on. We are recording. So we
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move adoption of the resolution approving the option to lease agreement and temporary license agreement with Congressional Medal of Honor Museum Foundation.
second.
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that we strike section 11 of this easement, of this, what are we calling it, option? Just to remove what says the extinguishing of the existing DNR easements, establishing the DNR easement in the lowland DNR easement, and acquiring the road parcel, all of section 11, which would be 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, which is on page 6 of at least the draft that I have. I have a few reasons for doing that. I think our citizens need some good news. The group that we're asking to do this is a group that my town gave almost $500,000 of cash to get up and operating, to get going with some good news for the citizens of our town and our state. Good news is not saying that we have already decided that there's that we want this easement extinguished. We haven't spoken to the public. We haven't. I'll be glad to host a public hearing at the town of Mount Pleasant, and DNR can come listen, and this board can come listen. And I don't like recruiting a private entity to lobby another state agency to make a decision. I think the conservation easement issue should stand on its own merit. I don't like bringing in something like an effort to honor the Medal of Honor to deal with something that has to do with conservation and land. I think we need a clean deal with the Medal of Honor Museum, and I'd like to leave here and give our citizens good news, not good news with also what I think many will take as bad news, is that we're now advocating the extinguishment of the easement on the already established habitat. So that's my motion, that we strike section 11 but approve the agreement as amended.
So that's a motion to amend your motion.
Yes, that's a subsidiary motion to amend the motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
It would die because of a lack of a second.
If there's no second, it dies.
Dies,
Yep.
yes. Then we need to vote on the resolution. Is there a second?
That was already second.
There's no doubt.
Right, so let's vote on this, please.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. For the camera.
Any nays? Not hearing any. It is passed or adopted. Is there any other business before the board at this time from the executive session?
No, there is
No,
no,
from
there is not.
session.
There's not.
Not executive session.
Right. If none, I call for
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Will you autograph mine too? Mine, will you autograph it for me? Just tell me to drink expensive wine today.
You don't want me to
You need 3 copies, right?
You all right?
Hey, you know, I
I do
mean,
all
this is a
right,
long
Wayne?
time coming. This is a lot
Any
of
better?
sweat.
Any better?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
That was totally for the record, for the bird watchers and milk.
Yeah.
That's all that was.
Give him the plasma. Any progress in all this? Oh, yeah, he's doing well.
Because I'm going to hold you to it. Sign right there. I'm putting that frame on it.
He dated though.
You know, it is a pretty remarkable thing.
It is remarkable.
We gave them exactly what they wanted.
And I really do think that they're
You all
going
right?
to be, I think they're going to be
Yeah,
able to
no,
do
all
it.
good.
Let me-
Larry's gonna get you to sign the resolution. I'm supposed to be on a conference call right now. I'll talk to you.
You know, I saw where it was in the monthly news at Neil again, and this may have been before we talked to the board. It said his plan was to turn it over to us to run.
You know-
That's got to be dealt with, because that's a
We all know
real,
what.
They think that's, see, they think that's part of, they think that's appealing.
I get to everybody but us.
Yeah, I mean, no, they think that that's an appealing thing to the state and it'll help with, you know, but, I think it'd have to.
I think, I think that's a real issue for us down the road.
Well, and I talked to Tommy about that. I said, you know, we've said that many times, we don't want anybody's keys coming. And,
First happened. That was before you came.
so, I don't, you know, they would have to have that all, I mean,
You know, we
if
sat
they
down.
build up a strong enough foundation,
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Darwin.
Thank you. Have a good trip.
if they build up enough in their foundation, they'll be able to help it themselves. And of course, if they can raise the money to build it anyway, they'll be able to get that support.
You know, we would either have to have a big fund sitting there or a state commitment that they would help. You know, and we're not going to get that anytime soon, not after COVID, all the money they're going to shell out. I mean, I just think that could be a real problem for us if they don't get that.
You know, and before, you know, in that 2.9 ask, aren't we considered a fee-based, like, supports authority for purposes of asking for that money?
What?
I'd ask for a gazillion,
Oh.
the 2.9, I mean.
3.1 we've asked for?
3.1.
You help me, Brandon, so isn't there a fee-based, don't we fall under some kind of different category for that money?
We're a quasi-state agency, but it doesn't matter, and we're still considered state agency because we have
But I mean, more than replacing what we lost? Hey, I mean, other
Right
than
now-
our reserve, can we ask for our tickets?
No, for right now, I'm being told no. What I'm being told is you can ask for any expenses that you paid to fight COVID. So if you got PPE orders, if you've got,
That's only, what, 110,000?
retract, different things, you had to pay overtime, or you had to pay time and a half for somebody to guard or security or something like that. You can do that stuff.
How can we get more?
Well, I think you got to let the House battle the Senate and
Well, we
say.
could call all the maintenance costs COVID.
I mean, I think that's.
How about,
I think it's important when they have the conversation is that we say, you know, we aren't like the universities. I mean, so like they're not going to pay the difference of whatever they lost on tuition, but we're 100%. You know, we're 100% relying on the gate admissions. And if you can't get in here, you can't make money. Where colleges still had already, you know, had collected tuitions for those sessions, and they had online classes so that people weren't getting, you know, refunded their money when they went to those semesters. Plus, you got people signing up for the next semesters hoping they're going to get on
and they've
online.
also got foundation money, all of them do.
Yeah, so I argue back with staff are like, no, I don't. We're different than we are
Different than
unique.
college in Charleston.
And they don't like us saying that, but we are.